Thursday night at MetLife, Sam Darnold and the Jets faced off against Brett Rippon and the Broncos. Both teams desperate for their first win of the season. And even though we're already 5 days removed from the game, Broncos country is still riding high after Denver's 37-28 win over the New York Jets. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in for the latest edition of Broncos Beat. I'm Alexis Perry, and I have a few of my favorite football minds joining me here today. We have Cecil Lammey from 104.3 The Fan, James Palmer from the NFL Network, and for the first time, we are going behind enemy lines with Mike Giardi from the Patriots Beat and NFL Network. Mike, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. Let's do this thing.
Well, guys, the Broncos are no longer winless, and it was Brett Rippon who led the way for the Broncos in his NFL debut, going 19 of 31 for 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. James, let's go ahead and start with you. What did you learn about Brett Rippon in his first career start?
I saw some toughness, right? We saw him going out there as that lead blocker, running and trying to make a block ahead of a run game. And he's going out there and taking those hits at the end of the game, some late ones coming from the Jets. And I think standing in there and playing the way he played really gives you some respect amongst your teammates and within the locker room by showing that toughness. I also saw the quick decision-making, right? We saw 13 sacks over the last couple of games, and they don't get sacked. Now, obviously, that's part the Jets, part the offensive line, but you do have to give some credit to Brett Rippon that he was able to process, get rid of the football quickly. We knew he worked well mentally, right? Played that role in helping Drew Lock get ready last year, but then he goes out and shows that he can translate that for himself onto the field. And then going downfield a little bit, spreading it out. I think he just came out and he played in the manner in which they wanted him to, which was different than the way Jeff Driscoll did. And I think he went out there and managed the game well. The picks were probably, an instance of trying to squeeze the football in there. You start getting a little confident, 2 of them late. But at the same time, when Vic Fangio says he's surprised by those picks, I think it shows you what they think of him in his decision-making. And they don't think those are type of decisions that they usually would see out of him. And that's a nice compliment for a guy making his first NFL start.
Yeah, he looked to me like the same guy that I saw at the Shrine game, same guy I saw on film at Boise State. When he was starting for the Broncos in college, he looked like this. NFL is a different stage. And yes, it was the Jets, but he still looked like the stage wasn't too big for him. He wasn't bright-eyed. He wasn't like a deer in the headlights and just kind of froze up underneath pressure. He was a guy that ran the system as designed. James mentioned that. Like, okay, you've got a guy that's going to do exactly what you want him to do. That high football intelligence, that great footwork. He's got absolute fantastic feet as a passer mechanically. And then you see those picks, lack of arm strength. It's kind of the story of Brett Rippon. It's one of the reasons why I compared him to Kirk Cousins when he came out of college. Like, he's going to distribute the ball all around the field. He's going to run the system as designed, be courageous, and doesn't have a cannon for an arm, but you can win a lot of games with a quarterback like Brett Rippon.
Yeah, I think the best thing that I can say about him, Alexis, is that he looked like he had done this before. He had been at this level. It wasn't too big for him. Yeah, there were some moments in the interceptions where he definitely would like them back. I think that's probably a little bit of the first game and the speed of the first game, an actual NFL game. But I thought he was poised. He was calm. He spread the ball around very well, which I think makes you more difficult to defend. And the quick decision-making. When he was in rhythm, that offense looked pretty good. And that's not something that we can say, really, since Drew went down. So I think that's a good sign going forward if he has to play, again, whether it's this upcoming week or somewhere down the line. I think they have a comfortable guy now that they feel like can be a number 2 for them and win him some games if he has to.
Well, offensively, as a whole, what did you guys think the Broncos did well against the Jets?
Well, I brought up the sacks, Alexis, and obviously that's a dramatic change from the previous 2 games, right, to not allow a sack. And I do think Garrett Bowles jumps out at me a little bit, and I'll give Garrett a little bit of props, right? He's a guy that's kind of been a punching bag in the city of Denver for some time now, and he's had a pretty decent start to the season, and he's been a little bit banged up. And speaking of him, I think with the offensive line and the run game was another part that jumped out at me. I think Melvin Gordon was kind of the guy that fans were waiting to see that they saw in a Chargers uniform the last couple of years, breaking some important runs off, and Cecil making runs when they really mattered in a game, right? Getting that extra yards at a key spot to where you can really hurt a defense. I think those 2 things really jumped out at me.
That's why Melvin Gordon's what I call a rhythm runner. Okay, he's going to get 10 carries for 30 yards, but then those other 10 carries are going to be for 100 yards. And yes, I know most of it came on the big 40-yard touchdown run. That doesn't matter. It's what rhythm runners do. They've littered the history of the league for years and years and years. Like, when you have a guy, you get him to 20 carries. Those first 10 carries may be a little bit rough, but as the game goes on, you saw Melvin Gordon get better. You saw the big run to basically seal the game. And on the flip side of that, I'll say what ties together run game and defense, and the Broncos defense, the pass rush. We saw not only saw Melvin Gordon with his 100-yard game, we also saw Bradley Chubb with those sacks. So it was good to see that as well.
Yeah, Bradley Chubb feasted on a bad Jets offensive line, and that's exactly what he should do. You know, if he comes away from that game with a half a sack and a few tackles, you say, wait a minute, isn't that Jets offensive line terrible? Shouldn't he be doing that? No, he dominated the game from a defensive standpoint. And back to the offensive side, we haven't seen the thunder and lightning of Gordon and Lindsey together, really, right? So it was nice to get Gordon going. It also helps a young quarterback, an inexperienced quarterback, you know, that you're going to be able to turn around and hand the ball off to Melvin Gordon and have some success that way. And I think when Drew comes back, I still think that's a key factor for them to win games, is to be able to have some balance there and to be able to have Gordon and Lindsey when he comes back going well. I think that makes them more balanced. I think it makes it more difficult to defend again. And I think it takes pressure off whoever the quarterback is.
So going back to the defense, what do you guys think this defense can really build upon this week as they prepare for New England?
Well, both these guys mentioned Bradley Chubb, but I think it's worth mentioning a third time because I took a lot of heat on Twitter for saying how much I liked what Bradley Chubb was able to go out there and do, and everybody ripped me apart going, it's the Jets, bro. What are you doing? No, he needed a game like this to get back mentally that he knows he can go out and do this, right? Coming off the ACL and everybody in town saying he's not 100% from John Elway to Vic Fangio, I think this goes out and proves to him that he can go out and do it. It doesn't matter the opponent. It matters that he was able to go out and do what they expect him to do. And I think that needs to carry forward moving throughout the entire season. This is the 5th overall pick. This is a guy they expect to be a dominant pass rusher in this league with extremely high expectations. I think this mental hurdle of this game and having some success, Cecil, was a really, really big step for Bradley Chubb's season.
Confidence is key in football and in life. And I almost want to make a public apology to Josie Jewell, because that's a guy that I regularly bag on the air, and like, okay, this guy, you got to get him out of there. And he was magnificent.
He looked like a Pro Bowler the other day.
He did. And I know it's the Jets, but that doesn't matter. You have to play the people on your schedule and you got to beat them down. Like, you have to take care of business. Josie Jewell really stood out on Thursday.
What I would like to see them improve on is the secondary. And I thought they were a little loose, and I don't think that Jets passing offense is something that scares a lot of people. So while it was nice that they got pressure, I'd like to see a little bit better coverage. I think they have some personnel back there to do that. I just think it needs to become more consistent going forward.
All right,
I like
guys,
Mike in his first appearance, how polite he is about the Jets passing offense.
He's so sweet.
It's Monday. I'm just trying to be a nice, happy guy for everybody. But by the end of the week, I'll be miserable.